We have different payment integrations now. We do have our traditional credit card processing through Sage. So if you wanted to run a normal or traditional credit card through Dispatch, you could type all this information if you have that integration, and it would run it just like any other program. We do have a new one also through Payment Solutions. It's ExpressPay. Sorry. Basically how that works is your driver in the field or from the computer, we get the customer's email address. We then send the customer a link for the payment. They fill out all their own information. They do pay a credit card fee or a processing fee on their side, so they're actually kind of paying some of that processing fee or credit card fee for you. It marks it as paid, or the driver gets a notification that it's been paid. It also marks it as paid in Dispatch Anywhere. At the end of the month, ExpressPay takes a portion of those credit card fees out as like their payment. So part of that is being paid and covered by the customer. To make that work, let's do recently finished. Let's send this call back to my driver app. All right, so let me log back in here. And let's share my screen. All right, so here's my driver app again. Let's say I do the payment option. All right, I'm gonna add a new payment. Let's say it's for the whole amount. You would have a different payment type in here. We're going to call it payment request, but you could call it like payment request express pay. As long as payment request is that's the key word. As long as that's in there, this will work. Hit continue. If my customer's name and email address was on the call, it's going to pull it over here. Otherwise, your driver can change it if they need to, but I'm going to hit process. So on your driver's app, they're going to get a waiting for payment. Now, once that's completed, this will say completed so the driver knows. But if we flip over to my email here, wait for this thing to load. All right, green light. The other email is from the status. Let's see if I get my, here we go. So here's my ExpressPay. So this is your customer side again now. So please follow the link. So the customer does this on their phone or from an email address. The nice thing about this is the party doesn't necessarily that's paying for it have to be in front of you or in front of the driver. This can be sent to somebody else or just anybody that's going to be paying for it. So our logo, powered by ExpressPay, customer's name, call number or invoice number, the amount. If they want to add gratuity or do it as a percentage, you have the option to turn that on or off. So the total. Hit next. Oops. Hit next. So they can either pay, if it's something they use all the time, they can obviously log in, but they can pay as a guest as well. All right, so here, this is where it's talking about. So you got the amount, $235.20, site fee of $7.46. So the total for this call is going to be $242.66. So then they would put all their credit card information in, acknowledge the terms, and then finally pay it. Again, either whether it's on desktop or whether it's from the driver app, they're going to get confirmation that it's been paid for, and then whatever they need to do to finish up that call, they can go ahead and take care of on there. I get a lot of customers asking about the site fee. You know, what if the customer complains about the site fee? I've had some customers say the way that they use this, the customer's complaining about it. You know, this isn't the only way you have to make a payment. We also accept cash. So if you want to pay it via cash, you know, just find an ATM, give us some money, and we can do it that way. And you don't have to pay the site fee. And then typically the customer is like, that's fine, I'll just pay it. It's actually more convenient to do it this way. As far as you're concerned, you're going to collect that entire $242.66, but $235.20 is going to be paid towards the call. That additional $7.46, part of that or whatever percentage ExpressPay takes, they're going to take it off of that. Right. So in your bank account, you're going to see a different amount than what we applied to Dispatch Anywhere. Dispatch Anywhere is not going to account for the site fee. That's going to be taken care of separately because you pay that to ExpressPay. Right. Let's see, Frank here. What process company is this? Does this work for Square? It's very similar to Square, but it's separate. It's not. It's basically a separate company. Like whereas Square right now you just run them separately and then mark it paid via credit card in Dispatch Anywhere. This would actually mark it as paid in Dispatch Anywhere and take the payment at the same time. The same thing with Sage. If you do the traditional credit card processing, you're just gonna. Let's see if we go back to the driver app here. So if I was a driver and I let's say I have Sage, I hit credit card, hit continue. This is more or less what the little reader looks like. They would plug the reader into the headphone jack into the phone, and then they would swipe the card just like any other credit card, and then that would just be a normal credit card transaction that they do in the field. But currently we only integrate with Sage or ExpressPay. So it's just two different solutions. We have a couple customers that use both. They have the traditional credit card processing for, like, let's say accounts, and then they have ExpressPay for any customers that, like a regular cash customer, for example. So you can do both. You can do one or the other. You can do none. You just have to, run it. Let's say for Square, for example, you're going to run it through Square like normal. You're just going to mark it paid in Dispatch Anywhere. Some of the customers I've talked to before that used Square in the past, if they signed up for Sage, typically what I hear from customers is Sage either gets you the same rate that you have or lower than what you currently have. Typically, Square charges a little bit higher interest rate on some of that stuff. So like a traditional credit card processing, like through Sage, for example, might be lower than what you're paying. But if you're interested in any of that stuff, I can put some of the contact information for either Paul at ExpressPay or Jason over at, Jason at ExpressPay, Paul at Sage, if you're interested in that. All right, so the ExpressPay would not work if the customer did not have a smartphone. Correct. If they don't have a smartphone, they'd have to get to somewhere where they can bring that up. I guess really worst case scenario is the driver could send it to themselves or send it to the customer's email. The customer would have to check their email on the driver's phone and then process all of it. At that point, you're probably taking a ton of time in the field to do that because I guarantee after working in the wireless industry that customer has no clue what their passwords are. Chances are it's going to take forever to get that payment. So yeah, ExpressPay and that might be more of a headache for those types of situations. I would say most customers probably at this point probably have some sort of smartphone or at least an email address set up on their phone. So it would work great in those situations, but you're right. If a customer doesn't have a smartphone, they're not going to be able to take the payment. Or like I said, they're going to have to get in front of a computer and access it that way. All right. After it's done, the customer does get a receipt for their service as well, so they'd want to use their email address. But yeah, it's going to be one of those situations where maybe having both options might be a solution. Or if you have, let's say, ExpressPay, but you also have your traditional credit card processing, whether it's through Sage or not, we might have to call back that credit card to run it maybe at the office and then mark it paid via credit card in the system, something along those lines.